It's 2009, the dawn of our beloved golden age of first-person shooters. This year saw the release of now titans of gaming history. Massive titles like Modern Warfare 2, games that would stick in our minds for decades to come, all being released around this period. And somewhere, buried in amongst all of that chaos, Borderlands. At its core, Borderlands is a hybrid game. Originally, the idea was to merge various concepts from different sources to create something unique. Just to compare, you've got games like Fallout that embrace a post-apocalyptic setting, or Call of Duty, which aims to be a more realistic first-person shooter. Borderlands doesn't exactly fit into any particular kind of mold. It's not entirely fantasy nor completely grounded in reality. It's the in-between concept, bordering a multitude of tried and tested ideas, hence the Borderlands.
You look at the game, we've taken some risks. We're blending shooting with role-playing. Only a few folks have done that, right? BioShock, Mass Effect, Fallout 3, but we're going crazy with it. We're adding co-op. Remember those games let you take people online, so you have to do the difficulty of making it work as a co-op game and as a single-player game. We nailed that. We've done this really interesting, really exotic art style that something I've never seen before. So it's taking a lot of risks, so I'm kind of terrified about it.
You can credit loads of sources for providing the inspiration to this game. Mad Max, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Braveheart.
Freedom!
Now don't you tell me that shield isn't ripped straight out of Halo, but what Borderlands does so well is to advance and adapt these concepts, taking them a step further. What the f***? With their widely acclaimed arsenal of gun variants, they were even knocking on the door of entirely new schools of thought, never before induced, essentially popularizing single-handedly a brand new genre of game later defined as the shooter-looter, which held so much potential, we even saw an already immensely successful video games development company, Bungie, actually abandon the old FPS formula in order to create their own interpretation of the shooter-looter genre. So with all that said, around the age of 10, I managed to finally get my hands on Borderlands, embarking on what would become my first impressions of the franchise, and at that time, man, I tell you what, I hated the game. And now looking back, I realize that I was a dumbass who knew nothing about video games. Okay, so,
you want to hear a story?
Why is Borderlands so good, you may ask? And to explain, I'm gonna have to address 3 of this game's best features.
Light the fuses, bitches!
As with most first-person shooters, you shoot things. Though Borderlands can at times be either immensely satisfying or rather infuriating. Oh, come on, man. However, the overall premise is pretty straightforward. Set out with your basic weaponry and collect better shit. This better shit will belong to one of a multitude of color-coded rarity variants, either white, green, blue, purple, or orange in that order. As the games progress, you get others as well, like pink, which indicates that a gun is of E-Tech make.
I'll be damned, that's E-Tech.
I won't get into that. While the rarity of a weapon is an important factor, there are plenty of other things to consider as well, like level, weapon type, bullet type. If you take the time to familiarize yourself with all of these different gun characteristics, you'll come to realize that even the brand of a gun can change how it behaves. Needless to say, that the customization options here are vast.
There are a lot of guns in Borderlands. There's a lot of equipment. When we presented the game last year at the German Game Convention, we talked about 500,000 guns. There are over 500,000 weapons. Go ahead and we're gonna cheat now. Go ahead and throw out a gun. Just spawn it, just spawn a bunch. We'll just show you. Every single one of these guns is different. They're procedurally generated. No development team on the planet can create 500,000 weapons within the time and budgets that we're dealing with here. We have created software that actually creates these things for us using rules. Every manufacturer of these weapons, like TDR and Vladoff and SNS and Dahl, these guys all have rules and materials that define what's available in this world. And we're always looking for better stuff. That's pretty sweet. Nice scope on that one.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. In addition to all of this, you've also got different equipment, different characters, each with different skills. There are so many ways to switch up your gameplay that in a single playthrough, you will not have seen even half of all there is to offer. Okay, cool, so I can customize my character. What the fuck's the point, you may ask? Well, just like how your equipment is varied, so are your enemies. As you play, you will encounter many different kinds of hostiles belonging to different factions within the game, and it goes without saying that the more you progress, the harder these hostiles will become. Badass variants, bosses. While the main story can be completed without having to pay much mind to optimizing your loadout, some of the late game raid bosses are practically impossible to defeat without a well thought out plan of attack. While this doesn't always make for a perfectly fine-tuned experience, as you'll likely stumble upon the odd bug, it is very fun. Kill find a better gun, and kill more
Programmers made this my default tone of voice. I'm actually quite depressed.
For the majority of your time playing Borderlands, events will be taking place on the planet of Pandora, which evolves drastically throughout the story from its original wasteland feel. I think it's remarkable just how much character they've been able to pack into each unique location that you visit. Take Halo 3 for example. Arguably, it's a better known, highly regarded game, and yet, try to name me one location. You can't. That's because everywhere you go feels hollow and vacant, serving only as a mere backdrop to gameplay. Meanwhile, in Borderlands you've got Firestone, Sanctuary, Jack's office. The locations are far more memorable because they're contributing more context to the experience other than just, you're here to kill things. This is where the characters live. You have a whole community here, gun store, hospital, a bar, a garage. While Borderlands 3 takes things a step further, allowing the player to visit other planets, I never felt like that was necessary. Pandora doesn't feel empty. I mentioned earlier how the planet changes as key moments in the story occur, and I just wanted to show you a couple of my most favourite examples. Sanctuary turns into a giant flying city, revealing a whole subterranean cavern that was hidden below. Firestone makes a second appearance, and I think the moon's really interesting because you've just casually got this giant space station occupying its orbit. I mean, you see this thing rain down projectiles from afar like it's nothing.
A lot of people have been asking why my voice beeps all the f***ing time. The Torque shareholders wired my voice box with digital sensor, so I can't say stuff like cock or p*** or f***ing balls. That's like half my f***ing vocabulary. It's goddamn bullshit.
Alright, big boy time. Arguably one of the best features of all the Borderlands games would be its interesting story and witty dialogue. From the first game, your merry band of Vault Hunters go through so much shit it's unreal. It's easy to warm up to characters like Claptrap, Lilith, Zed, Marcus, Scooter, Moxie. As I'm listing them now, I'm realizing just how many there are. Ellie, Mordecai, Brick, Roland. They all have their own unique personalities and quirks. I think it's one of the most criminally overlooked aspects to all of these games.
All around the stack, this plant, the stalker chased a bandit. The stalker thought 'twas all in fun. Pop! Goes the bandit.
The voice acting is of a great standard for all the characters you'll meet.
Why don't you boys run on back to your camp?
Oh, good idea. I think we'll just turn around and head back to our... Die!
And yet, none come even close to the legend himself.
Mr. Tassiter? Mr. Tassiter, are you there?
Mr. Tassiter's been replaced, sweet cheeks. Starting today, you're working for me.
Who is... John, is that you?
Call me Jack, honey. Handsome Jack.
For those of you who are unfamiliar, Handsome Jack is the main antagonist for the second game. A master puppeteer pulling the strings from behind the scenes, this corrupt corporate tyrant will stop at nothing but to wipe you and all your friends off the face of Pandora. yet?
Hey kiddo, Jack here, president of Hyperion. Let me explain how things work here. The Vault Hunters show up, Vault Hunter looks for the new vault, Vault Hunter gets killed by me. You see the problem here? You're still alive. So if you could just do me a favor and off yourself, that'd be great. Thanks, Pumpkin.
He's hilarious. Chiming in pretty damn frequently, he both captivates and taunts with his dialogue, which tends to range from threats on your life
Just turn yourselves in and I promise, your deaths will be quick.
to bragging about buying a diamond pony.
Blood Stallion! Here you go, Blood Stallion. Say hello. Yeah. Blood Stallion says hello.
Damien Clark did such a good job performing his role that while playing as one of the 4 generally interchangeable protagonists, Handsome Jack provides a much needed sense of charm and consistency to the story. I swear, half the fun is listening to the kind of shit he'll say to piss everyone off.
Holy nutballs! What happened to your freaking face?
Borderlands was good. Borderlands 2 was fantastic. Borderlands the pre-sequel was also good. And while the action and setting of Borderlands 3 was definitely on par with the others, for me it's the story that's lacking. Specifically, these two
What is up, my bandit legions? Got Queen Tyrian coming at you live with my brother Troy.
They have to be the biggest slap in the face to the Handsome Jack standard of villainy possible. The cringeworthy dialogue is torture to listen to, and the whole concept just feels like it's attention seeking. It's sad to see a studio that used to defy the industry, taking bold risks on things like its distinct art style, suddenly try to appeal to as shallow a fad as fucking live streaming. However, with all that said, in the grand scope of everything that this franchise has done well through the years, it will hopefully be just a small blemish to this game's otherwise exceptional legacy.
Thank you, Gearbox. You've done an amazing job.